World leaders rebel against US and Israel. To save Gaza, they demand international intervention.
The tone is engaging, factual, and perfectly tailored for your YouTube news channel style. Music fades in, newsroom ambience. In a stunning turn of global diplomacy, world leaders are openly rebelling against the United States and Israel over the continuing crisis in Gaza. The international community, once divided and cautious, is now demanding decisive intervention to stop what many are calling a humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in real time. This dramatic escalation marks a rare moment in modern politics, where traditional allies of the United States are publicly challenging Washington's unwavering support for Israel and calling for an urgent international ceasefire mechanism to protect civilians trapped in the crossfire.
Transition sound, anchor voice intensifies.
From Europe to the Middle East, from Africa to Latin America, voices are rising. France, Spain, and Ireland have led the diplomatic charge within Europe, pushing for a joint United Nations resolution that could impose a peacekeeping mission in Gaza.
French President Emmanuel Macron, in his latest statement, declared, "The international community cannot remain silent. Gaza needs protection, and the world must act now." Meanwhile, leaders across the Arab world have stepped up pressure, uniting under the Arab League's emergency session held in Cairo. The joint declaration accused Israel of violating international humanitarian law and condemned the United States for blocking multiple ceasefire resolutions in the UN Security Council. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abulghait described the situation as beyond tragedy, saying, "This is no longer just about Gaza, this is about the credibility of the international order." Cut to visual footage of UN assembly, protesters holding banners. In the United Nations, the tension is palpable. More than 80 countries have now signed a joint appeal for an independent humanitarian corridor into Gaza, bypassing both Israeli and Egyptian restrictions. Diplomats say this could be the first step toward deploying a multinational peace mission if the conflict continues. Latin American nations, particularly Brazil, Chile, and Colombia, have gone even further, recalling ambassadors from Israel and accusing both Tel Aviv and Washington of enabling war crimes. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in a fiery address, stated, "This is not defense. This is destruction. The world cannot look away anymore." Transition, anchor voice softens for emotional tone. The human toll continues to climb. According to the latest figures from international aid agencies, tens of thousands have been displaced, hospitals are overwhelmed, and supplies of clean water and food are running dangerously low. Aid convoys attempting to enter Gaza have been repeatedly delayed or turned back, worsening the humanitarian disaster. In response, multiple humanitarian organizations, including Doctors Without Borders, the Red Cross, and UNICEF, have called for immediate international intervention, not just in aid but in ensuring safe zones and medical access for civilians. Dr. Margaret Ellis, a spokesperson for the Red Cross, said, "The situation in Gaza is beyond what aid alone can solve. There must be political will, and that means global action." Scene shift, US and Israel reactions. But Washington and Tel Aviv are not backing down. The White House has reiterated its unshakable commitment to Israel's right to defend itself, while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused critics of hypocrisy and moral blindness. In an official statement, Netanyahu said, "No nation would tolerate rocket fire on its citizens. We are not fighting the people of Gaza, we are fighting terror." However, this narrative is increasingly being challenged internationally. Analysts note that images of destroyed neighborhoods, hospitals in ruins, and the suffering of children have shifted global public opinion sharply against Israel. Even within the United States, several lawmakers have begun questioning Washington's continued arms shipments to Israel. Senator Bernie Sanders called for a suspension of military aid, saying, "If Israel cannot distinguish between militants and civilians, it should not receive a blank check from the United States." Cut to segment, European divisions. Within Europe, cracks in unity are deepening. Germany and the United Kingdom, traditionally aligned with Washington, are facing mounting domestic pressure as protests erupt across major cities. In London, tens of thousands marched calling for an end to the silence, while in Berlin, demonstrators accused their government of complicity through inaction. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, once among the most pro-Israel European leaders, has now called for a balanced approach, emphasizing that the Gaza situation cannot be solved through military means.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez went even further, stating that continued inaction will make us all responsible for the collapse of humanity in Gaza.
Transition, Anchor voice intensifies.
At the heart of this diplomatic revolt lies one central demand: international intervention. Several proposals are currently under discussion at the United Nations.
One involves deploying a neutral peacekeeping force along Gaza's borders, similar to past missions in Lebanon.
Another calls for a global conference to negotiate a lasting political solution involving both Israeli and Palestinian representatives, something not attempted since the Oslo Accords. China and Russia, meanwhile, have both thrown their weight behind the idea of an independent international coalition. Beijing's foreign ministry released a rare joint statement with Moscow, declaring that regional stability cannot be achieved through occupation or unilateral power.
Anchor tone, analytical. Political analysts believe this represents a turning point in the global balance of power.
For decades, Washington's dominance in Middle Eastern diplomacy went largely unchallenged. Now, as nations from every continent call for a new framework, one not dictated by U.S. interests, a clear geopolitical shift is underway. Dr. Richard Wolff, an international relations expert, explained, "What we're seeing is the birth of a multipolar consensus where no single nation, not even the United States, can dictate the terms of global peace anymore."
Seen, public response worldwide.
Across the world, public sentiment mirrors this shift. Social media has been flooded with global campaigns under hashtags like #SaveGazaNow, #StopTheWar, and #EndTheOccupation. Protests have erupted in New York, London, Paris, and even Washington, D.C., as ordinary citizens demand their governments take meaningful action.
Human rights groups have urged the International Criminal Court, ICC, to open a formal investigation into alleged war crimes in Gaza. In The Hague, ICC prosecutors have confirmed that they are reviewing multiple submissions from affected parties.
Anchor, emotional tone.
For millions around the world, Gaza is no longer a distant conflict, it's a test of humanity. As the destruction continues, the question remains, will the global outcry finally force the powerful to act, or will political interests once again outweigh human lives?
The coming days may decide not just the future of Gaza, but the credibility of the entire international system.
Closing music fades in. This is Noverse Global News, bringing you the world's most critical updates with clarity and truth. Stay informed, stay aware, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth coverage.